Yo, what is up, guys? Del Boy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hope you guys are doing well. So, once again, a sanctioning body makes a nonsensical decision. Shock horror, right? The WBC have elevated Vasyl Lomachenko to be their franchise champion at £135. I mean, where do we even start with this? First and foremost, what is the point of a franchise champion? Why do the WBC need a franchise champion? What's the point? What's the purpose? How is somebody anointed a WBC franchise champion? Is there a criteria? Is there certain goals they have to meet? How are these guys anointed as franchise champions? Is it just pick and choose who the WBC like? I mean, first and foremost, I'd like to know how the WBC crown a franchise champion. I'd like to see some type of criteria or something along those lines. And why do we need it? Why does boxing need a franchise champion? Explain to me how it makes the sport better. For me, it just convolutes the sport further. You know, it muddies the waters in regards to who's champion, who isn't champion. And it just makes boxing that much more complicated, especially to the casual audience. You know, one of the main criticisms for boxing from a casual standpoint is that there are too many belts to follow. That's one of the main criticisms. So, you know, the WBC making decisions like this doesn't really help that matter. It really just makes things worse, you know? I mean, it's hard enough for hardcore boxing fans to really know what's going on with these sanctioning bodies, let alone a casual fan, you know? Just embarrassing. There's no need for it. Completely pointless, and as far as I'm concerned, it's just really another way for the WBC to line their pockets with sanctioning fees and things like that. That's why this decision has been made, as far as I'm concerned. And listen, what is a franchise champion? Are they even champions? I mean, from what I read, a franchise champion doesn't have any mandatories, you know? I've read somewhere that a franchise champion can't even lose that tag of being a franchise champion. So, for example, let's say Lomachenko or Canelo lose their next fights. The guys who beat them will not be the new franchise champion. They won't be. Essentially, if you beat a franchise champion, you can then fight for the regular WBC world title. So basically, you're beating a guy who was originally the real champion to fight a guy who has been given his belt in the post, a guy who was elevated champion without fighting anybody. So if somebody beats Canelo Alvarez at middleweight, they don't get his franchise championship, they then get to fight Jamal Charlo. Just crazy stuff, really is crazy stuff. You know, the WBC are an absolute sham, and as far as I'm concerned, this decision can only be about one thing, and that is money. That is the sole reasoning behind this, let's be honest about it. And I expect the WBC to, you know, pull this stunt with other fighters, other high profile fighters. You know, maybe someone like Deontay Wilder could be a franchise champion soon. Maybe even an Errol Spence. You know, these high profile champions. I could see some of these guys also getting, you know, elevated to franchise champion real soon. But yeah, I'm just dead against this. I really am. I think it's terrible for the sport because basically it leaves you with a scenario where the real champion doesn't really have a recognised belt and the guy who's been elevated champion is a paper champion. So any division where the WBC have a franchise champion, neither champion really has full distinction of being a champion. You know? So to me it just muddies the waters. It devalues their own belt, and it's just not good for the sport as far as I'm concerned. And as for somebody like Lomachenko, a guy who is trying to become undisputed, that kind of throws his plan out the window. I mean, can we really count Lomachenko as the WBC champion when he's got no mandatories, when he can't lose that franchise champion tag? I mean, it's crazy, man. It really is crazy. And, you know, the WBC, they will pull this stunt again. And, like I say, for me, it just makes boxing that much more complicated. and it's really needless, it really is needless. But, these guys are all about the money, they make their money using sanctioning fees for all of their belts, so it's in the WBC's best interest to have a franchise champion, So there we go. It's disappointing. It really is. I mean, in 2019, the IBF are looking like the most credible sanctioning body right now, to be honest with you. The WBA always pulls some bullshit. The WBC are on that same hype right now. The IBF right now seem to be the most down-the-line sanctioning body. They are really the only sanctioning body who enforces mandatories and things such as that. So, right now, for me, the IBF is the most credible sanctioning body. The WBO are okay as well, but the WBA and WBC right now, they're looking like jokers as far as I'm concerned. Share your thoughts below. Peace.